Welcome to WYTV7, Christian broadcasters from Charlotte, North Carolina. My name is Pastor Cindy, and you have joined Conversations with Pastor Cindy and Friends. The next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing personal testimonies with folks about how God has redirected or directed their lives, as well as second career people. So I think that my friend Dave here would fit both those very well. He is a member of St. Stephen United Methodist Church in Charlotte, which is my home church. And I've known him for a very short period of time. I know his wife most well, but Dave came into my life, deeply came into my life the day I heard him share his testimony at St. Stephen from the pulpit. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is letting him tell you how God directed and redirected his life and all the abundant and the blessings that come out of that, not only for him and his family, but for those around him in his community. So welcome, Dave.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. And so I'm going to let you start out, if you would, and tell me a little bit about your family, how long you've lived in Charlotte, perhaps, and then we'll segue into your personal story.
Sure. So gee whiz, we've lived here in Charlotte since 1991. So that's almost 26 years now. I'm the father of three boys. The oldest is 32, and the youngest is 17. One in college and the other one about to be in college. Oh. And we've got a grandbaby, little
awesome.
Girl, which is about a year and a half old, and another one on the way.
Awesome. And what is her name?
Penelope.
Penelope.
Sweet
Pea.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too sweet. And another one on the way. I know grandchildren. Mine's will be graduating high school next year, and Michael is 13, and he is a grown-up because he knows everything, and he loves to tell you that. But they're both precious kids, and it's quite different than raising your own, though, isn't it?
Certainly is. But what
they get whatever they want when they get it, when they want. So tell me a little bit about what you used to do and what you're doing now.
Sure. I've been in technology for my entire working career. I joined a predecessor bank to Bank of America called NCNB.
I remember that.
33 years ago now in Florida as a software engineer, writing code. And I was fortunate to join a great company at the right time. And throughout all of those years, just continued to grow in my career and responsibility and work with a lot of terrific people. But this past October, just about a year ago now, I retired, but I call it now leaving corporate America as opposed to—
because you're not old enough to retire.
Well, so yeah, retiring.
I'm gonna keep a tab.
Retiring suggests that I'm golfing or something that is a hobby, which is not happening.
That's right. So it sounds like you had much success, and at that time in your life, you were very pleased with that success. But somewhere along the way, if I remember clearly, your testimony that day, there was a 180-degree turn.
Oh, sure.
So tell us about that.
Sure. Oh, it's funny how God works for all of us when we figure out what happens in our lives and think back on it. What I realize now is, as I look back on all those years of my career, is that I was trying to prove something. I was trying to prove that I could be successful. I was the youngest of 6 children, 4 older brothers, trying to prove something to them. And throughout all of that, was very successful. And then I think I developed a fear of failure, like many people do, in many different ways.
Yes.
And for me, it was a fear of failure that really began to overtake me in maybe the last, 7, 8, or 9 years or so there. And then one day, I had a very difficult moment at the company where they made a management change that I ended up on, for me, on the wrong side of that. And what made that particularly hard is that even though I had been with the bank up to that point 20, maybe 28 years or so, that never happened to me before. And it caused me to think really hard about, why am I here? What am I doing? What did I really want to accomplish in this job? And I realized that I was trying to protect success, which was very selfish, and protect, a way of living, a standard of living, and things like that. And it made me think very hard about why am I doing this and how am I spending my time.
Right. So it was like a success and movement and all the things that the world tells us that we need. And then all of a sudden you had that moment of clarity where God went, hello, I'm talking to you.
It was. And I think that, I think at least for me, what was very hard was to be honest with myself. I think so often we put together stories we tell ourselves about why we do the things we do. And reality was certainly I was taking care of my family, and certainly we made large, contributions of time and money to lots of different places. But at the end of the day, I was trying to protect my own success, which was selfish.
I appreciate that honesty, because a lot of people aren't going to let people know that, because we have such a thing as ego. And you know what ego means? Edging God out.
There you go.
Yeah, so we have this mask, and you probably felt many days like this toward the end and right before God did this, that you had this mask a persona that you had to take on the road with you, downtown Charlotte. You had this protection that you wanted, maybe from a little perfectionism, maybe from being the youngest child in your family, maybe from saying, maybe a parent said, maybe Dave won't be as good as the rest of them because he's the littlest. Well, yeah, and trying to prove something. And the only way we can really prove something is, even when it comes to Jesus, we can't prove that to people, but we can walk it in such a way that you go up someday and do that and say, let me tell you about my life. So that brings you to St. Stephen. Now tell me what since you've retired, you feel led to lead. You've mentioned the word missions.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing here in the past year.
Well, I think actually, like most folks, those types of changes happen even earlier. So even while I was still working for the company and busying myself, 60 some odd hours a week, I started increasingly getting involved in mission opportunities within the church. First, I started out as a youth counselor, which I still am today, just 10 years later, and a passion that is such a joy and just a blessing to be able to give to our youth.
They need somebody like you, Dave.
And then also, we were fortunate enough to come upon and start a spiritual gifts ministry here at St. Stephen many years ago. And we've continued to enhance that. We, by the way, is my wife and two other members of the church that started the ministry. And we branched out now beyond St. Stephen to other places to teach a spiritual gifts ministry. And that continues to grow. And that's an area in particular now that I'm not working in the corporate life. Every hour of the day, I've devoted a lot more of my energy to.
Dave, I want to stop you here. I want you to tell me about taking the spiritual gifts ministry into the community. Tell me that one Kathy told me about was terrific. So can you share just a little bit about that?
Absolutely. That started about 3 years ago. And this was actually something that, even though I was still working in corporate America at that moment, I was able to do something that I got tremendous joy, which I know could only possibly come from the Holy Spirit and living out my purpose. Yeah. So we took this curriculum that had been put together, and basically it's a self-assessment. You learn about yourself, and was geared towards folks, in call it suburban America. And we modified it, and with the help of the executive director, Stephen Smith, no, not the Panther Stephen Smith, but Stephen Smith, who's now with Charlotte Family Housing.
Yes.
We modified it and brought it to the Harvest Center. And so there at the Harvest Center, they have clients that go through the rehabilitation program. He had us added to that curriculum, which was just awesome. And then Pam Smith, another wonderful person at our church, has taken it to the Dove's Nest, part of the Urban Ministry Center, which is a women's rehab organization. And likewise, one of our goals is to do the same thing here with the men's version of that program, Jacob's Ladder, hopefully this fall.
Yeah, to Charlotte Rescue Men's Rebound.
Yes, Rebound. Thank you.
Yeah, I served at Dove's Nest for 2.5 years. And I was there when Kathy and Pam brought the spiritual gifts in as a ministry. And it's a pretty powerful thing when you come off the street from not even having a bag full of clothes, let alone a place to live, or a mouthful of food, but to process how God's been active in your life, and then surprise, all of a sudden, I know what my spiritual gift is. And it's amazing support.
And that he's gifted all of us.
All of us.
Each and every one of us, whether we know it or not. He loves us so much. He has given us gifts. And our challenge is, what are they? And so our hope is to be able to help folks ask those questions and know what those gifts are.
That. And once you
know how
find
much
out,
God loves us as a result.
and once you find out that spiritual gift, he'll open the door.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden they'll be, Dave, I'm calling you. So you've done youth ministry and still involved, and you, with a combination of folks here, started spiritual gifts ministry. Anything else I think you just went on a mission trip not long ago.
So St. Stephen started going to Guatemala. And that began a year ago last April in 2016, and we started building a church. We went a second time in November. I went on that trip, and the church was finished within a year with the help of a few other churches. And then I had the opportunity to go again this past April, where we started working on what's called a stove ministry. So this is where, with the help of other organizations that specialize in knowing how to build stoves, money's raised here at St. Stephen, along with contributions, small amounts from the families that are helped immediately. We go with a team of about 20 or so. We go into Guatemala and we build stoves. We do about one a day per team. It was like 5 teams. And during the short time we were there, we built 25 stoves for 25 wonderful families.
Now, my understanding is that these people didn't even have a thing to cook on, like nothing. And so
these are generally adobe huts, so maybe 8 foot, 10 foot, sort of size. Sometimes they have electricity, sometimes they don't. But there's not any, true, might be a light bulb, but nothing that's going to run a stove. So moreover, these are open fires generally the folks have today inside of their homes, and the smoke just billows up on the inside. And lung disease is the most common form or cause of death in women in these Guatemalan homes, simply because they spend so much time inside. And then when it gets really cold, that's how they heat. So very simple, takes a smokestack up out of the house, takes all the smoke away, keeps people warm inside. It's wonderful.
You didn't see anybody crying over all those gifts while you were there. I know you well enough to know that you shed a few tears.
Absolutely.
And when they had that mass celebration, which I got to see on the screen here during worship, with the banner that St. Stephen made with all the hands and feet, and you took that and presented it to the church that we built. That's an amazing stuff. That's what I love. The times I went to Appalachian Service Project with the kids, they had me carrying cement blocks one day up a hill because that's the only thing I could do because they were digging out the foundation. So I'll tell you, I was skinny when I got home and really hungry, but it just fills your heart to do mission.
Well, what's awesome about, and there's many missions like this, but what's awesome about this type of approach is that if you're not able to make a trip to Guatemala, but you can contribute, really it's just $120 for a stove. And the family contributes $20, which is a lot because that's like a week's salary there. We contribute the other $100, but there's folks that are here that can be a part of that mission. They get the pictures of the families. They know who we help. They hear the stories from all of us. And a big part, we're the ones that are blessed to be able to be there. And part of our responsibility is to bring back that story and bless all the other folks here.
That's right. It is amazing when you go on missions like that. You go to help someone, to assist them, and they end up helping and assisting you. It's just the way God works. Exactly, this universal love that we've got, this divine love that's all giving and all receiving. So Dave, now you're still involved in those missions. You're still involved with the youth. What kind of challenges do you have when you serve with the youth?
Oh boy.
Would you say one or two?
With anybody, any kind of person, the challenge is always building trust to have a connection. And moving beyond, call it very casual conversations, and being able to be in a position to be able to talk from the heart. And not only be able to talk from the heart, but also to invite the youth to share what's on their mind. But more than anything, it's so often that you imagine as a youth counselor, you'll have a moment where a youth really needs you and they ask you something and you hope to endow them with these wonderful words of wisdom at a moment in time. But the reality is all we can really do all the time.
Right.
That almost never happens. But the reality is our job is to show the love of Jesus Christ to them every day, in everything that we do, and know that that example that we set for them matters.
Exactly.
And sometimes whether what's on their heart or mind, they know that there's people that in that moment care about them. And not just us, but the community of youth around them as well.
And I would say, Dave, that there are some youth in there that perhaps you're the only one that they let inside for lots of different reasons. And so you can connect with them in a unique spiritual way that perhaps even their family can't, because you are unbiased person, you love them, but I as a youth could share with you something that I wouldn't want my family to know, and you could give me that wisdom and direction that you talked about. That's a wonderful thing. I was young at one time, but it's been a while. Not too long, though. But anyway, I hope you'll join us again, Dave, and our listeners. And just know that the Gospel of John talks about Jesus came so that we could have life. The kicker is that we can have life abundantly. Not just a mundane job like day in and day out, but that we can really have something that thrills us, just like putting up a stovepipe in Guatemala, just like walking hand in hand with the youth when they talk about something that's heavy on their hearts. So that's what God means when we live life abundantly. It's not about money, about cars, about who you are, where you live. It's about laying your head on the pillow at the end of the evening and hearing him whisper in your ear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." So this has been a wonderful time with Dave Weaver and conversations with Pastor Cindy and friends from WYTV7 in Charlotte, North Carolina. There will be a telephone number there. We are a nonprofit entity. No one makes any money, but we do a lot for the kingdom, and you can't put a price on that. So I hope you'll check in with me next week as we go about interviewing people on their personal faith journeys, as well as 380s, a second career. So thank you, Dave, and the peace of Christ be with you all, always. Amen.